Just give me the heads up, and I'd like to turn things over to you, Commissioner Harvey.
Well, then heads up. Here we go. We're ready here in the chamber.
Okay, let me welcome everybody to our canvass meeting, regular scheduled time. Commissioner Gage, I'm going to, since I'm only available by Zoom, I've asked Commissioner Harvey, since he's in the commission chambers, to run this canvass meeting. Commissioner Harvey, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Farrar. Appreciate the privilege of being able to support you in this process here. We appreciate your welcome, and we welcome those of you who are in the audience today to be here. We have special welcome to our very own Tim Vandernack from the Standard Examiner, who I will say is as fair of a reporter as I've ever met in my lifetime. And that's, I'm not blowing any wind up your skirt, Tim. Not that you're in a kilt today, but, you know, just that is a true thing. I'd like to turn the time over to item B on our agenda today and go over the certification of the election results that were held on the 3rd of November in the general election. Mr. Cowley.
Thank you, and it's good to be here at this canvass today. This has been a pretty brutal year, and to be honest with you, by far the toughest in the 15 years that I've been running elections. We're pretty worn out and exhausted both physically and mentally. It's been a really draining year. And I've never seen things turn so personal as they have this year, with the widespread misinformation and direct attacks on our electoral process. But I am proud to say that we've withstood the scrutiny of the elections this year, and the things that have been within our control have run as smooth as they ever have. Our elections team and poll workers did an absolutely amazing job given all of the chaos around them, and especially given the pandemic thrown in on top of it. It made for a really, really interesting and long year. I'm proud to say that we demonstrated the incredible impact that vote by mail can have on creating an informed electorate and being engaged at record levels throughout the entire year. This is our 13th straight election doing vote by mail, and that's something that I think a lot of people maybe haven't realized, but this is something that we're not new at. We've been doing it for quite a while. We currently have 23,000 more active registered voters than we did in 2016, which was also a vote by mail election. And we counted nearly 27,000 more ballots, which is a pretty significant increase. Percentage-wise, it only was about a 4% turnout increase because of the higher number of registered voters. But what that means is that our voting eligible population, the percentage of that group that participated is much, much higher than it ever has been before. The security around our vote by mail system is significant. We've also demonstrated the power, the efficiency, and the service that we can provide through a singular polling place. In the March presidential primary, we used Union Station. Obviously, June was a little bit different. We used the parking lot at the fairgrounds. And then this election, using the Golden Spike Event Center as well out at the fairgrounds, we were able to provide a level of service that we could never provide before, both for the disability community and having wheelchairs available, people movers, voters with visual impairments were able to be serviced at a much higher level. And we did not have any lines, which is pretty remarkable given the turnout of a presidential election. There was one point, and I know Commissioner Harvey, you're very familiar with the Golden Spike Event Center. There was actually a line of cars backed up to the west gate, and we changed a couple things with the flow in the parking lot. Within about 5 minutes, we got everybody into the parking lot. And a few minutes afterward, I walked into the polling place fully expecting there to be some lines from that significant amount of traffic. When I walked in, there was absolutely no lines. It was as if there had just been the same flow all day long. And it was remarkable how efficient the poll workers were. And that's the power of being able to do one polling place and having all those resources there. We weren't sitting through hallways in libraries, in packed places. Obviously, with the pandemic, that was a bonus. But not having lines, I think, was a significant achievement. There's a lot of other positives to come out of this election year, and I'd like to highlight just a few of those. 2020 has been a year unlike any other. We've experienced a pandemic, earthquakes, we've had protests, a monumental presidential election, and my gosh, we've even had murder hornets. So it's been quite the year. One really neat thing was in the midst of all of this, Coach Amy Donovan from the women's basketball team, an assistant coach, sent me an email and said, hey, our girls basketball team, our women's basketball team would like to help with the election. What can we do to help? Obviously, they're not registered voters. Most of them live out of state, but they came and they helped set up our polling place along with the golf team and the women's softball team. They came and set up our polling place, set up COVID shields, put tape on the floor, put signs up. Not only that, but they came back the next day with the golf team again, but they also brought the men's basketball team with them. And they helped direct traffic in the parking lot. They helped greet voters. Some of them even helped some of the elderly voters, assisted them through the polling place. And it was just really neat to see them get so involved and want to give back to the community. It's unfortunate, obviously, with COVID that it looks like we're not going to be able to cheer them on this year on the court and on the fields. But I think that's a neat opportunity that they had to give back to the community, and it was great to see them want to get involved. Around the country, we saw a shortage of poll workers. That was something we'd seen in the headlines leading up to the election, that it was getting difficult to find poll workers. We were fortunate enough that we were able to be fully staffed. A lot of people in the community stepped up. We had about 20 or so poll workers right before the election that were quarantined, that either had COVID or were exposed to it, that were unable to help. And even in the midst of all of that, we were able to fill those back up with volunteers that were willing to do that. And even as I was setting up the polling place, one of my good friends that I hadn't seen in a few years sent me a text and said, hey, my boss gave me the day off tomorrow. How can I help? And so we were able to bring him in and use him as a poll worker as well. So it was really neat to see the community step up. And a big part of that was also the county departments. I know the commission really gave us a lot of support in using county employees, and they kind of created that stabilizing force with the poll workers, along with our awesome volunteers from the community. The departments also played a key role in processing ballots. After election night, we had about 40,000 ballots that were dropped off on election day that we needed to count. We were able to process those within 2 days, and a lot of departments chipped in and helped us out, and that was phenomenal. A couple of other groups that I just need to give a special shout out to are the library. Our library system exemplifies what service and community service is all about. Prior to the election, they dedicated a staff member at each branch or library to register voters. And so when voters would call on the phone and say, hey, I need to register to vote, I'm having a hard time with the website, or I don't have access to a computer, we could just send them to the library. And they had somebody dedicated at each library to help them get registered to vote. So they provided a great service there. Also, our sheriff's office was phenomenal. Obviously, there was a lot of concern this year about security at the polling places and security of our drop boxes, things like that, and they did an excellent job of providing service to us. Our operations team is phenomenal, always helping us out, and the staff at the Golden Spike Event Center were phenomenal as well. Most of all, though, I would really like to thank our staff. They really are, I think, underappreciated for what they do in the community and what they do for our democracy. The bedrock and the foundation of our democracy is based upon free and fair elections. And the team that we have just does a remarkable job. And they have given so much of themselves and time away from their family to make this election a success. And so we've got our team here. We've got Stacy and Daniel and Megan, and I just want to thank them for all that they've done to make this election a success. So with that, Ricky, do you have anything that you would like to add, and then we can jump into the results?
Just a huge kudos to our entire elections team and Ryan. I've watched them over the past several months putting in 12-hour days, day in and day out, and often on weekends. And it's a tremendous level of service that was never ending. And this on top of having 3 elections this year, on top of having record-breaking turnout last year, petition signature verifications, and then a record-breaking turnout in 2018 as well as 2016. It's been a rough 4 years for from an election administration standpoint, and they have stepped up to the plate and really done an excellent job. Tireless. It really is impressive, and I can't even do it justice by explaining it this way, just because I saw the hours that they were putting in and the strain and the stress, and to do so with such professionalism, and it really is impressive. And I see this kind of service, and I know that our county and our country is in good hands when it comes to elections. This election has the highest turnout that the country has seen in 120 years, and this is the most secure election and the most transparent election that our country has seen. And it's because of the dedication of our team members and of our election administrators. They're just phenomenal. So that's really all that I had. And kudos to the candidates and the voters who really stepped forward and let their voice be heard, and the candidates put themselves out there. That's how it should be. So great work all the way around, and I'm just proud of our elections team and all that they've done.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Mr. Kelly, please.
All right, so we'll go on with the results, and I kind of want to echo a little bit of what Ricky said. I appreciate people who run for office. It's not an easy thing to do, but win or lose, it strengthens everybody in the process. Even if you lose, at least you've created a dialogue, and I think you make the person who won the election a better office holder once they take place, because they've had to think through and formulate what their positions are. So as we go through the results, these results represent only Weber County, so there's a lot of these races that are multi-county races and things like that. Those will be certified at the state level, but I'll show you the results, but these only pertain to Weber County.
We may need to have the county treasurer or the county assessor come down, because I think we only have 2 commissioners.
Okay. Yeah, there does need to be 3, 4.
So we're just going to take care of that real quick.
Hold on, so they need to be 3 live, because
Commissioner Jenkins is not online?
yes, I thought that he was. I got a text
Yeah.
from Shelley House.
Yeah, Commissioner Jenkins and I are both here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought that we only had 2. So if we have all 3, we were good to proceed then. Okay. So
That's just techno, but we have the other 2 commissioners online virtually. Thank you.
we're good to go. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So with that, we'll jump into the results. And we will post these on our website and update them on the state website shortly after this meeting. So if you don't get to see a good glimpse of it, they will be up there shortly. Overall, we have 126,823 registered voters. And that represents an 89.32% turnout. One thing that I do want to do right before I jump into results is there's a summary page, just really quickly, that gives some statistics for this election. The 89.3% turnout is overall of our active registered voters.
For those of you who are on Zoom, if we could ask you to mute, please. Those of you who are on Zoom, if you'd please mute your microphones while this presentation is being given. Thank you.
By mail and through drop boxes, we received 95.1% of the votes that were cast, which is an amazing number. Overall, kind of in the total summary, we had 107,747 ballots returned by mail or through the drop boxes. Only 14% of those were returned through the mail this year, which is a significant decrease, and I think that comes because some of the things that we saw with the post office.
14%.
14%.
Of the 95, wow.
Yep, and typically we're about 40 to 45%. It's almost a 50-50, slightly under 50% by mail. I do want to give a quick shout out to Ryan Burnett from the Ogden Post Office, the postmaster there. That guy worked his guts out on behalf of this election to make it a success, constantly in communication, going above and beyond to make sure that ballots were delivered to voters, making sure that the drop boxes had the correct information, the postal drop boxes, and things like that. And they really have been a great partner. I know sometimes the national dialogue around the post office has been one thing, but our local post offices really have done an amazing job and stepped up to the plate this year. Undeliverable ballots, we only had 1.2% undeliverable. In a typical mailing, it's around 10%. And that's a credit to the amount of time that we spend maintaining our voter list, making sure that when we're mailing out ballots, that they're not just going out to everybody. They're going out to an active registered voter and not to some unknown address. So 1.2% is an incredible amount. Out of all the ballots we had returned, we did not count 861 of those. And 97 of those were returned past the deadline. So they had a late postmark. 6 of those were in an empty envelope. They returned the envelope, but no ballot in there. 188 of those were not signed. State law requires that an envelope be signed for us to be able to count it. 10 voters did not have a signature on file with us. 555 had a signature did not match the voter record. Now, every one of those that didn't have a signature on file, that wasn't signed, or the signature didn't match the record, we contacted every one of those voters and gave them an opportunity to correct that deficiency, and they had up until 5 p.m. yesterday to do so. And this year we also piloted a program that allowed voters to use, it was called text to vote, and they could text a number and then it would give them a website that they could log into and provide their information and provide us a signature. And we had a large number of people take advantage of that. On our provisional ballots, we had 2,020 that were cast. Of that, we counted 1,975, or 97.8%, which is a very high amount of our provisional ballots, and that's a credit to the poll workers that took the time with the voters to be able to make sure that everything was filled out correctly. Of the ones that weren't counted, 35 had an incomplete application. A lot of times they didn't sign it, those kind of things. 5 had already voted. They voted a by-mail ballot and then came in person and voted provisionally. And then there were 5 others, which are people like that were registered or had an address in another county, something like that. And about half, 1,046 of the provisionals, were same-day voter registrations. So any questions up to there so far?
I don't. Commissioners Jenkins and Frohr, do you have any questions regarding up to this point?
No, appreciate that information. Go ahead.
All right. On these results, I'll kind of highlight a few races. If you want to look deeper at any of them, just let me know. But I'll kind of highlight some of the key races and then the ones that are kind of more specific to the county. So first of all, obviously of big interest is the presidential race. And Donald Trump got 58.6% of the vote. And Joe Biden got 36.1%, with the rest of the percentage being scattered among the other candidates. For Congress, Blake Moore got 64.6% and Darren Perry 35%. And this is only of Weber County. Obviously, there's other counties in that district. Governor Spencer Cox got 62.3%, and Chris Peterson got about 30% of the vote in Weber County. And then I'm going to kind of skip through some of the other state races. Those will be up on our website as well as updated on the state website. And the state website will include totals from all of the other counties as well. Going down to our Senate races, state Senate races. Within Weber County only, this is a multi-county district, but John Johnson got 60% of the vote, and Katie Owens got 40% of the vote. Greg Buxton was unopposed, so he got 100% of the vote. In House District 7, so unless I state otherwise, these are districts that are contained solely within Weber County. This is one of them. Ryan Wilcox got 64.6%, and Grant Protzman got 35.4%. District 8, Steve Waldrop got 57% of the vote, and Oscar Mata got 43% of the vote. District 9, Calvin Musselman got 58.4%, and Steve Olson got 41.6% of the vote. In District 10, Luana Lou Shirtliff got 51% of the vote, and Travis Campbell got 49% of the vote. District 11 is split between Weber and Davis County, so this only represents the Weber County portion. But Kelly Miles got 58.5%, Jason Allen got 41.5% of the vote. In District 12, again, this is split between Davis and Weber County. Mike Schultz got 77.2%, and Sean Ferriola got 22.8%. And District 29 is also split between Weber County and Box Elder County. And in that, Matt Gwynn got 78.2%, Kerry Wayne got 19.5%, and Tanner Greenhall got 2.3% of the vote. State Board of Education obviously was unopposed, so he got 100%. County races, obviously this is of particular interest to the people in the room here. Commissioner Harvey got 65% of the vote, and Alex McDonald got 35% of the vote. For County Assessor, John Ulibarri was unopposed. County Recorder, Leanne Kiltz, got 69% of the vote. Samuel Leake got 31% of the vote. Treasurer was also unopposed, so John Bond got 100% of the vote. Ogden School Board, there were a couple of races in School Board that were very, very close. So Ogden School Board District 1 was only separated by 21 votes. It's outside of the amount for a recount. A recount's within 0.25% of the vote. This falls just outside of that. So Arlene Anderson will be elected to the school board there. Ogden School Board District 3, Jennifer Zundel was unopposed, so she got 100%. District 4, Amber Allred got 72% of the vote, and Jeremy Shinoda got 28% of the vote, so Amber will be elected there. Ogden School Board 5, another relatively close race between Nancy Blair and Sue Barton. 50.5% to 49.5%. Again, this would fall just outside of the ability for a recount. So Nancy Blair will be elected there. Ogden School Board 6, Susan Richards was unopposed, got 100% of the vote. On the Weber District side, these races were unopposed, so Paul Whittison will be elected. Douglas Hurst will be elected. John Ritchie will be elected. Supreme Court justices and the judges, I'm just going to kind of fly through that. You can look at those on the website. Do you want to see the results for the constitutional amendments? Or are you okay if we skip?
I'd like you to just go over those, but just not as quick as you did the judges, because I could hardly even. This is like a motion picture.
Yeah, it is. So Constitutional Amendment A, and these are just Weber County. Obviously, these will be certified at the state level. Constitutional Amendment A passed in Weber County 55% to 45%. Constitutional Amendment B passed 80% to 20%. Amendment C, 78% to 22% it passed. Amendment D, it passed 59% to 41%. Amendment E was 79% for, 21% against. Amendment F was 66% for, 34% against. And Amendment G was 56% for and 44% against.
Great.
The other question, obviously of great interest, was out on the west side of the county, the question of whether they would incorporate and become a city. And that did not pass, 56% to 44%. And that really renders the other two questions a moot point, which were what type of a government they wanted, and then whether it should be districted. So those are the results. One of the things that we do to maintain the integrity and security of our election is prior to the election, we conduct full tests of all of the equipment that we use to ensure that they're tabulating correctly and working properly. We do that both on our own in our office, and we do that publicly. And then post-election, we also do an audit. So we audit about 1% of the ballots that were scanned in. We also audit about 1% of the signatures. The audit is a randomized audit done through the Lieutenant Governor's office. So we basically give them the number of ballots that we had, and they tell us which ones we need to audit, and they do the same with the signature. We conducted that audit and found no discrepancies at all in that audit. So with that, these are the results, and I can comfortably and confidently stand behind these results and say that this election was done in accordance with the laws and the will of the people have spoken.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move to Commissioner Scott Jenkins, who's online, to find out if he has any questions for Mr. Cowley or for this presentation.
No, sir, I do not. It was fairly represented, and they did a good job. So, Ryan, good job.
Thank you. Commissioner Frohr, opportunity for you now, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair Harvey. I would just give congratulations and thanks to Ryan, his team, Ricky. Really, what you've gone through in these, and you said it best, these difficult times, this difficult year. What Weber County Elections has done has really been the shining star, not just for the state, but you've received national recognition at least twice that I'm aware of. So you've been able to be the foundation for what the public deserves as we have these elections, as we look for future leadership. You really give a confidence factor that the public needs to have, and you've done a great job on that, Ryan. Again, with these difficult times, I would probably say you need some rest because this has been a toll on you and everybody else associated with it. But great job, and congratulations, not only from the commission, but I say that on behalf of all the residents of Weber County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Harvey.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Hatch, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Just to echo Commissioner Frohr's comments on much needed rest. Hopefully they'll be able to take some time and catch back up on life.
Thank you. Before we go to, I'll call for a motion to approve this canvas. I'd like permission with you to just be a little personal, if I may.
Sure.
4.5 years ago, having never been in any type of politics before, I decided to throw my personal hat into the ring. I immediately was impressed with how secure the process was back then. Ryan, you were at your post then. And I would encourage those who might speak ill of Weber County's process, I'd invite them to go online and see some of the videos that have been produced that shows our process. And if they have any questions about that, to reach out to our elections department personally and to see that process for themselves. It's not an empty statement when I say this is the best elections department in the country. Now, I've not been, I should say, one of the best election departments in the country because I've not been to the others. But you must be something when you're featured above the fold in the Washington Post and in the New York Times. There must be confidence in your team, you with Stacy and Daniel and Megan, in what you're doing. Truly, your department leads. You have set a platinum standard far above gold. I am grateful to be a part of this organization. Ricky, I'm grateful for your leadership and trust in this group, and have every confidence that this is done equitably, fair. I can personally tell you that nothing was extended that has not been extended to all candidates equally. You're men and women of integrity and honor, and it's a privilege to be associated with you. For those few that are online, hopefully later on, but even in this chamber, I would just like you to take a moment and join me in a round of applause for Ryan and his team right now, please. Thank you. With that, commissioners, I'd like to place this motion for approval and would entertain a motion at this time.
So moved, Commissioner.
I'll recognize Commissioner Jenkins as the one.
second.
and
I'll
then-
second.
And then Commissioner Froer as a second. Is there any other discussion? I'll place the motion for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
If there's no other motion, then while not listed on our agenda, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn, Chair Harvey.
Thank you, Commissioner Froer, and a second by Commissioner Jenkins. All in favor, say aye.
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 Using proper gavel protocol, we're adjourned.